Hi! The big news. I'm selling my flat. I know this might come as a bit of a surprise for some of you, or maybe not. Just for context, I bought this flat about 3 years ago, and it's in Shoreditch. It's a 3 bedroom mansionette flat with a garden. You can see that that's my private garden on the outside. I have been really fortunate to live in such a beautiful place, in such a wonderful location for the past 3 years. But circumstances in my life has changed, and it has come to a point where it's better for me to let this flat go. Maybe I'll give a house tour as I'm explaining the process so that we can squeeze two things into one. The reason why I'm selling my flat, first of all, this is my living room. It's really messy right now because I'm packing things up. But those of you who have been following me for a long time, you know that this is the spot that I do a lot of my videos. And this is a picture, hand-painted Chinese in painting that I got from North Korea. I know I've been to North Korea before. It's actually quite an eye-opener. And so I'm selling my flat because I am moving out of the UK. I know I am. You're gonna say, "Oh, Vivian is another influencer who is moving out of the UK," and I'll explain why. Maybe this is a much longer video. It's actually quite a big decision for me to move out of the UK because for the longest time in my life, when I was working in Singapore, I've always wanted to move to London. London is really a dream location for me in terms of living, in terms of the culture aspects here. And honestly, I enjoy a lot of different aspects of my life here in London. But there are also things that I see about the UK economy and the UK society, and also UK as a country, that I thought maybe I don't want to spend as much time in London. I would like to still spend about 2 to 3 months a year in London or in the UK. It just means I don't really need to keep a base here, especially when cost of living is really expensive here in London. So yes, the reason why I'm selling is because I'm moving out of the UK. And why? I'm pretty sure a lot of people, especially if you follow me, you're probably a property buff as well. And you kind of go, oh yeah, Vivian, why don't you just sell it and collect rental income, right? That's your passive income. Thing is, I actually have another source of passive income in Singapore in the form of another rental property in Singapore. It was a property that I bought when I was in my early 30s. And since I don't live in Singapore anymore, it's rented out. And that property is actually generating very, very good yield. If I were to keep this property as a rental property, like a buy-to-let kind of scheme, even on its own, financially, it doesn't quite work out. And I can show you a longer videos of how I go through the calculation and why I arrive at that conclusion and what are the risks that I took into consideration to basically conclude that it's not worthwhile for me to keep this flat as a buy-to-let. So that's a longer video, a lot of maths and all that, but those of you who like it, you will like it. And the selling process, oh my God. So by the way, this is my kitchen. I know it's super duper messy right now because I have British Heart Foundation to come around and collect this fridge anytime, and a washing machine as well. And I'm packing things up, and tomorrow I basically put my things up on Facebook Marketplace for people to collect. And so I'm gonna have a lot of people in the house tomorrow to collect things. So this is the ground floor of the flat. I did a bit of renovation when I first moved in. Just as a side story, I'm only the second owner of this flat, and this flat is approximately 50 years old. The previous owner lived in this flat for more than 40 years. And she was a single mom. She raised a few kids in this home, so there's a lot of memory for her. And I actually never met her, but I met her daughter and her sons before. And her daughter told me stories about this place, how a lot of their relatives live around here. And every Christmas, this house is basically the center point for them to meet, because who can blame her, right? This place, this flat is close to 1,000 square feet. You can, when I host parties, and I generally like to host parties for about 5 to 6 people that can easily fit in this living room. In fact, what we normally do is if I'm hosting a party during winter, my friends will gather around this kitchen, and you can see that this kitchen is huge. My friends will gather around this kitchen and we'll just cook, and I talk to them when I cook. And if it's during summer, I would bring my friends out in the garden. So that tree with like Japanese camellia, that's in my garden, and it was planted by the previous owner. And I used to have a lot of roses, and they're not blooming right now, but that's somewhere around there. Yeah, so I like to host garden parties during summer. At one point, I have about 12 people for my birthday in one of the garden parties. It was just quite fun. So where was I? Oh, the selling process. The selling process of this flat. Those of you who sold flats or properties in the UK, yeah, it takes superhuman effort sometimes. That's what you think, right? For those of you who have never been to the UK or have never sold a flat in the UK but would like to learn how to sell a flat, I think I'll record a longer video of my audio of selling my flat. And I've sold my flat twice. This is the second time, right? So the first time was super duper easy. This time around, because the market has turned, right? It is a buyer's market. The economy is not doing too well. So I think I'm going to record a longer video so that you could learn from my experience, or maybe, not repeat my mistakes. So house tour. I mentioned that the previous owner lived here for over 40 years. So by the time she moved out, she was in her 90s. And this is also the reason why she wanted to move out, because she don't want to deal with the stairs anymore. And she's an empty nester. All her kids have moved out. So she was living in this big 1,000 square feet, 3-bedroom flat by herself with a stair. So she didn't want that. And during COVID, she was feeling really lonely because she was caught up in this flat by herself. The flat is very well maintained, which is also why I bought it. But in terms of the decor, they're not to my taste. They're a little bit old-fashioned. So one of the things that I changed is actually this light here. It used to be like a stained glass, inverted tulip shaped glass lampshade, which is quaint, but definitely not my taste. But there are certain elements of the flat that I keep. So you can see that this is a textured wallpaper, which I thought is super duper cute. I never knew what textured wallpaper exists. So this room is one where I did minimal renovation, and I changed the lighting. I changed the light because it's just, yeah. And one of my pride and joy, and this is what I always show my friends, especially female friends, when I give them a tour, I have a walk-in wardrobe. Yes, this used to be just a storeroom. Basically, she had like shelves, and they're pretty thick shelves. Let me see what I can show you. And they're pretty thick shelves. You can see, there is like this part here, but then she basically has shelves all the way up to this point here, which is really deep and, in my opinion, just not very functional. And I figured it's like, because I used to sell furniture, so I know dimensions of furniture and what dimensions you need. When you want to build a walk-in wardrobe, you basically need a minimum of 50 centimeters from this point, from whatever point you have, to the wall, because that's kind of like the width of your coat hanger and all that. So I knew that this was probably more like 65 or something, can't remember. This was more like 65, so I figured I could have 3 racks and I could have all my clothes there. I've always wanted a walk-in wardrobe, so this thing is really my pride and joy, and I will definitely miss this when I move out of this flat. And then I installed a mirror. I don't know how to drill holes in a wall, so I got a handyman to install a mirror. But this room, seriously, it's like every girl's dream, a walk-in wardrobe. So I am very proud of the fact that I could afford a 3-bedroom flat in Shoreditch with garden, with a walk-in wardrobe. This is 3-bedroom, not counting the walk-in wardrobe. As a single female, I'm actually really proud of that. So, and I'm also feeling really sad that I'm gonna let this go. I'm gonna give you a tour of my room. So this is my room. The color is a little green masquerade light. If you like this color, I can put it on the description below. So I actually painted this room twice. Initially, this room was kind of like a baby blue, but I just didn't like the blue because it reminded me of hospital. So I decided to paint it green for some strange reason. I paint the whole room green because when I first moved in, it was around July. It was July 2024. And the trees outside was just beautiful and green and lush. And I thought, yeah, let's paint the whole room green so that I have this like inside-outside effect. Then this green is way too much. But seriously, this is a view. This is a view from my window. How cool is that? That's the public park, and that's my camellia tree. You can see my camellia tree is absolutely beautiful when I see it from here. So I painted the whole room green and it didn't quite work, and I felt very depressed whenever I'm in this room, which is not good. And then I pick another green, I pick another like lighter color, which is this one. It's little green, and I liked it. This, I painted it, I painted it maybe like once. Again, I painted it in the same green as the other green. And then I just realized I just didn't like it, especially after I painted this wall again. So the green became, you can see like remnants of this green right here, became too much. And I've always liked the distressed look, especially when I live in East London, right? That sort of distressed industrial look. And so I found out on YouTube on how you can basically use a heat gun to strip away all the paint. And I thought, okay, the door comes with too thick of a paint anyway, so I need to strip it away. So strip that away, and I just wanted to see whether I like the texture, and if I don't, then I paint something over it. And it turns out that I actually do quite like the texture. Let me show you how it looks like. It really gives it that industrial distress antique look. So I did that, and then I also bought new doorknob. That's from Zara, and I thought, you know, the hot air balloon up at the top, very cute. And then this are new as well. Sorry, this room used to be a lot prettier. I used to have like a collage of pictures here. Maybe I can put a photo up on my video. This room used to be so much prettier, but well, I'm packing my life up because I'm moving in the next few days. And this is my study, well, study / Airbnb room. Sorry. I am like really trying to do everything I can. And I did my laundry yesterday because my washing machine is going to be gone today, courtesy of British Heart Foundation. This is the room that I put in the most effort. You can't see it now because this is my drawing room, but I'll put a picture up on this video on how it looks like before the renovation and after the renovation. This used to be a kid's room with the previous owner, and it had this really cutesy, kiddish wallpaper, which, you know, it's not going to fly with me. And it had a built-in wardrobe, like this spot right here. And it's really awkward in the middle of the room. And I thought, okay, this is not going to fly. I needed this room to be a single but expandable to a double room, meaning I would like it to have a single bed, but the single bed could be expanded out to sleep 2 people, just in case I have friends who visit. And at the same time, I wanted this room to basically keep all my books, and I have a lot of books. And the good thing about this place is it actually came with the bookshelves. But because I needed to strip away the wallpaper, so I have to take away all the bookshelves, strip away the wallpaper, and then that's when I found out the wall is full of holes. I don't know why it's full of holes, but it has, I kid you not, over 100 holes on the wall. So I have to putty them back. I joke that the wall looks like Afghanistan, you know, like bullet holes and stuff. Putty the whole back and then prime it and then painted it. So this room actually took me about a week just to renovate. But it is my pride and joy, you know, from the little hardware that I pick, from the space layout to make it super duper efficient, even though the footprint of this room is super duper small. So I actually used to, I do sort of rent this room out on Airbnb, and you know, the Airbnb review for this room is always really, really good, and it's super duper popular because it looks very cute, and the location of my flat is amazing anyway, so that helps. So that's the big news that I'm selling and house tour, and I'll talk a little bit more about my selling process, where I'm moving to, and what are some of the do's and don'ts when you are selling a flat. If you find this video entertaining, it piqued your curiosity, click a like and a subscribe, and I'll share with you more of my home moving, property journey, and my process of moving out of the UK and why I'm moving out of the UK. Bye! Hi, so I'm selling my flat. I'm sorry, my voice. Let's do it again.